Hello, I'm James Milan, and I am here with Scott Lively, who is an independent candidate for governor. Thanks for coming in to talk to us today.
My pleasure.
We're going to go over the format for this profile. This will be a live-to-tape interview, and that means that there will be no edits once we begin. There was no pre-screening of the questions, and the answers will be limited strictly to 2 minutes each. And we will start with a 1-minute opening statement from the candidate and then give him a 1-minute closing statement at the end of the series of questions. So without further ado, you have the opportunity for a 1-minute opening statement.
Very good, thank you. My name is Dr. Scott Lively. I'm an independent candidate for governor of Massachusetts. I'm both an attorney and a pastor. I am running to advance a biblical worldview in the political arena in Massachusetts, something that hasn't been done for a long time. My wife and I run an inner city mission in Springfield. We moved here intentionally. We moved into the worst neighborhood in the city. We bought the worst house in the neighborhood to set an example of redemptive living. We established our church on State Street in Springfield called Holy Grounds Coffee House, and we work to serve the most disadvantaged people in our society. I believe that America and Massachusetts, the way that it was when I was a boy growing up in Shelburne Falls, was much better, much more prosperous, more secure than the Massachusetts we have today. And I would like to bring that back.
Thank you very much. We're going to move right into the questions now, and okay. I just want to remind you that you will have 2 minutes to answer each one of them.
Okay.
First one is talking about the economy. What are the biggest issues facing the Massachusetts economy? What policy priorities would you support to address those issues, and how would you fund them?
Well, I think the problem with the economy today is that we have shifted from a Judeo-Christian cultural consensus that we had in the 1950s and previously all the way to the founding of the Commonwealth. We've shifted from that to a Marxist approach to government. And today we have an enormous, ever-increasing, very intrusive, centralized government with all the power in Boston, and that left-wing political policies extend into every aspect of our lives, and these always produce bad results. I would like to shift the emphasis back to a Judeo-Christian perspective, get back to smaller government, move the power back to the cities and towns, limit the government to the delegated powers that the people give to it, and that's my primary approach. I think that you can see the consequences all around us. Just compare where we were. I was born in 1957, and the society that we lived in was more prosperous. A family could live off of one income. You could send your kids out on the street and didn't have to worry about them being raped. You could leave your keys in your car, your door unlocked. We had a much better, safer society, and economically we were in much better shape. Look at all the corporations that fled Massachusetts once the liberals took over, right? It's gutted the infrastructure of Massachusetts economically. We need to reverse those policies, get back to fundamental, basic conservative principles. Our government is supposed to be a limited government with delegated powers that come from us, the people. And instead, we've become serfs to an elite class that is running everything from Boston.
Okay, thanks very much. What roles and responsibilities do federal, state, and local entities have in addressing energy policy? And are there circumstances in which federal policy would supersede state or local concerns?
Well, I have the same perspective regarding the federal government that I do the state government. We really have dramatically exceeded the bounds of authority that the founders established for government at the federal level. I don't think that they have a role. I think that this should be a state matter and to a large extent, a local matter. As a matter of fact, all the energy policies that are being put forth, I think, go in the wrong direction. Whenever we hear some new energy policy, it's all about establishing a new gigantic corporate structure or a large utility. Why can't we have individualized power-based systems? Why can't we have wind and power systems at the residential level, at the small business level, so that instead of the big utilities and the big corporations making all the money, that the citizens themselves can generate power on their own property, and the systems exist. And as a matter of fact, this would promote conservation. Because once a person got good at conserving energy and used less energy than they were generating at their own home, the meter spins backwards, and you can actually earn money by generating power instead of paying money to draw it up from the grid. So I say let's shift the emphasis away from these big giant projects, once again centralized control over all these things, and back to individual local solutions. Now you have to have some larger projects, but let's put the emphasis more on people and individuals being able to be self-sufficient and not have to be dependent on the big corporations and government.
So does that mean that you would support alternative sources of energy, which might be more appropriate on the individual level? Or?
Right, and instead of having, one of the problems that we have, I'm all for solar and I'm all for wind power, but when you have these big gigantic plants, then we find that this is very damaging to wildlife. These solar panels, for example, are frying the birds right out of the sky.
Okay.
And
sorry, I have to
that's
cut you
okay.
off there. Moving on to the next question. The Foundation Budget Review Commission will seek to determine which educational programs and services are necessary to achieve the Commonwealth's educational goals. Mm-hmm. What do you think are the key programs and services necessary to achieve the Commonwealth's educational goals?
Well, I believe that the number one factor in educational success for children is parental involvement. That there's actually a spectrum in my experience, that the more parents are involved, the better that kids do. The more that parents defer education to the government, the less well they do. So I would actually introduce an educational choice model with vouchers, and I would include homeschooling as one of the choices that people could do. This would allow a lot of people, especially moms that are out working a part-time job to be able to make ends meet, would be able to take that money from the school voucher, stay home and educate their own children. Who wouldn't want to be able to spend more time with the people that they love the most? And that those kids would benefit from having the greater attention and time with the people that love them the most. And I would have a priority down the ladder from there. I think private, religious and secular schools that have high parental participation are the second best thing. And then thirdly, the charter schools. I would take the cap off the charter schools and let's experiment. Let's open the doors and have all kinds of different forms of charter schools. And then in the government schools, I would shift the focus away from the a la carte system, which is turning the kids into sort of is imposing kind of a group think on them, and it's very. I think it's not healthy. I would shift to a cohort model in which the same group of kids travels through the educational process together, and not just the same age group, but where you have more of a family type environment or a tribe environment where you have maybe a 4 or 5 year range. I think is much healthier, and the same group of kids travel through the process together, looking out for each other, the older kids helping the younger kids, etc. And we at least set up a pilot program for that and prove that it works. I was involved in the cohort model in high school. I went to a special alternative school.
Okay, thanks very much. Do you support the expansion, and I know you've already touched on this, but do you support the expansion of charter schools in Massachusetts? And please explain your reasoning.
Well, I'll just continue my answer from before. Yes, I do believe that the charter schools are very healthy, especially the ones that have a classical emphasis, right? Latin and Greek. So I don't know if there are any in Massachusetts doing that, but there should be. Because that's provided such a wonderful foundation for the generations that had that model in public schools. But also, I like the idea of alternative schools in general. That parents should be able to have their children going to a type of school that suits their personal philosophy and goals. I went to, in fact, I was a very left wing. I'm very conservative now, but I went to a free school called the King Philip Project in Greenfield. I was the one of 12 students. There was 8 teachers. We had the upper 2 stories of an apartment house, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I graduated 1976, class of 1. But during that time, I got all my English credits working as an apprenticeship at the Greenfield Recorder, and then we collectively did our yearbook as a publishing project. And then all the classes we were able to do, we sort of design our own approach. Wonderful experience. I'd love to see that across Massachusetts. Different types of educational models that, you know, and like the experiment that used to be the states, you know, the 50 states, they used to have states' rights, and the different models could be shown which was better. Now we have everything's imposed from the top, from Washington, and we're impoverished because of that.
Thank you. What, if any, roles do federal and state governments have in addressing the ever-widening income gap in the United States, and if you can be as specific as possible?
Well, you know, I'm a pastor and I'm running Advancing a Biblical Worldview, and in the Old Testament, the Lord had a model that He established for economics. It was called the Jubilee system, and every 50 years, the land went back to its original inhabitants. And it was designed as a system to prevent the accumulation of wealth in the hands of families and groups over time. Now, it's inevitable that some of that is going to happen, but we have a system now where there's a dramatic disparity. The model that I look at, in Spain, there is a corporation that was started by, it's a co-op / corporation that was started by a monk in Spain. It's called Mondragon. And it's actually, I think, the 8th largest company in Spain. It has a cooperative model. Everyone is receiving a share of the profits, and there is something like there's a limitation on the top earner can't earn any more than 5 times what the lowest earner earns. And it's a wonderful working model. I'd love to see that develop here. I'm a huge fan of cooperatives. Matter of fact, after this election, if I don't win, one of the things that I'm going to do in Springfield is start what I'm going to call the Jubilee Christian Co-op, to try to help inner city people be able to climb out of government dependency by involvement in a cooperative business venture of some kind. And this, of course, would be a unique model. I don't know if there's anything that exists like that. But yeah, that's the sort of direction I want to go.
Mm-hmm. And some critics have labeled Massachusetts Taxachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that the fees and taxes levied on individuals and corporations are appropriate? Or do these rates need to be reevaluated and redistributed?
Yeah, the taxing system is out of control, and we should not be paying the amount of money that we're paying. Government is way too big. There's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse, which always happens when you have a one-party system. And frankly, let's be real here, that when you're talking Republicans and Democrats in Massachusetts, there's almost no difference. We have cronyism as is the model, and that it doesn't matter who wins. Whoever goes into that office, they start distributing the plums to their own cronies. The Republicans do it, the Democrats do it, they just go back and forth. That's a terrible system. We need to get away from that. And because of that, the government just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, and we have to pay for it. And one of the worst things is the public employee unions, right, which I believe are unconstitutional. You've got both sides of the negotiating of the negotiations sitting on the same side of the table as government employees. The politicians are scratching the back of the unions are scratching the back of those politicians, and the taxpayers are paying the bill. We have $129 billion of debt, and the gigantic lion's share of that is unfunded pension benefits, and there's no end in sight.
What do you think are the biggest immigration issues facing Massachusetts, and what would you do about them? And again, how would you fund such efforts?
Well, I think it would be self-funding, because I would deport all the illegal aliens. I think it's absolutely outrageous that no one is advocating this in the public realm. Just think about it for a second. Most of the people, I'm going to be speaking at a Hispanic forum here in a couple of weeks. Governor Dukakis and Governor Weld is going to be there. It's going to be focusing on Hispanic issues. Most of the people sitting in that audience who are Hispanic are here legally. and they want their family members to become here legally. And you have this gigantic group of people that's cutting at the front of the line and are being allowed in and are being given government benefits and extra help by cheating the system. They're making chumps out of everybody that's trying to do it the right way. I would say every person who cheated their way into the United States needs to get out of the country and get back in line behind the people that are doing it right. And if we did that, we would see a dramatic drop in the amount of money that we have to pour into the welfare system, and all those jobs that nobody can find right now. We have huge numbers of people that even stopped looking for work because there aren't any jobs. Those jobs are there, they're just in the hands of people who shouldn't have them. And that would all change if we just simply deported the illegal aliens.
Okay, can you give us an example, one, of an issue that you and your opponents agree on, and then two examples of issues on which you differ, and why your own positions represent, in fact, the best interests of the Commonwealth?
Well, I can't really think of two issues that we agree on. I think we all agree that things need to change.
Oh, it's only one issue that you
there
agree
we go.
on?
That's easy. That's easy. I think we all agree that things need to change. Everybody recognizes that we're in a mess. But where we differ is how we got into that mess and what we have to do to get out of it. Those are the two things. And that's a broad, general response, but I'm coming from a completely different perspective. I'm the only conservative who's running in this race. I'm the only person who stands up for the unborn. I'm 100% against the killing of unborn babies in the womb. I'm the only candidate who stands for the natural family, who's opposed to so-called homosexual marriage. Strongly support not just the Second Amendment. I'm a constitutional law attorney. And there are 5 different amendments of the Bill of Rights that are under attack today in America. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, which is really under attack, especially since 9/11, and then the Ninth and the 10th Amendments, which reserve to the people and the states respectively power that the federal government and the state government, well, at least in the Ninth Amendment case, aren't supposed to have. So that's I think that's the differences. It's pretty stark, clear. Also, people can see when they and hear when they listen to me. I speak what I believe. I'm not pandering. None of my positions are based on polling or what I think people want to hear. I tell like I believe it to be true. I'm an honest man, and I'm not lying to the voters. I'm not trying to get votes that I don't deserve. I believe that leaders need to articulate the value system and bring people with them into the future, a better future than what we have today.
Thank you. And for the last question, what strategies would you use for working with members of other parties and with others of opposing views? And what experience do you have implementing such strategies?
Well, in my experience, the left will not cooperate. In fact, they'll throw as many barriers in your way as they can. Really, we're in a culture war. We have contradictory, irreconcilable views on these things. There is no common ground on most of the things we're talking about. You cannot, at the same time, value individual human life and at the same time value the killing of unborn babies in the womb. There's no middle ground on that. Now, in some things that are common ground have to do with the more populist types of issues. I support Ralph Nader's book, Unstoppable, that he came out with, that the left and the right standing against predatory corporatism, which I think is a huge problem. Gigantic corporations that are exploiting whatever advantages they have from monopoly for nothing but money, and also that I actually view a lot of those issues not as left and right, but as the difference between natural and artificial. I'm in favor of natural foods, natural medicine, natural families, natural communities. One of the things that I'm surprised that I've gotten so much positive feedback from is I want to protect the honeybees, right? That the policies we're following, we don't know exactly what is causing the honeybees to decline, but whatever that is, we need to turn it around. God created for us this planet, and that He wants us to be good stewards of it. And we see something like the honeybees being wiped out, we're doing something wrong, and we need to fix that. And I believe it's that we're choosing artificial solutions over what is natural. And that's, anyway, I think that's a big part of who I am.
Thanks very much. And that actually closes out this series of questions. And we want to invite you now to give a 1-minute closing statement.
Oh, very good. Well, I would like to speak in this last minute to the conservative and values voters in Massachusetts. I'm not speaking to the liberals. I'm not speaking to the people that put party ahead of principle. I know that as an independent, it's not likely that I'm going to win the election. In fact, I say that it's like a miracle for Scott Lively to get elected. But I'm doing this to advocate a particular point of view. And I just want to challenge people who have principles. If you don't stand on your principles, then what good are the principles? And here, for the first time in a long time, you have someone to vote for that's not the lesser of two evils, but someone who actually represents good and not evil. So anyway, I ask you, trust God and vote your values.
And thank you very much. We want to thank Mr. Lively very much for participating in our conversation today. Please make your own voice count by voting in the state election on November 4th. For Arlington Public News, this is James Milan, and thanks for joining us.